Tonight's subject, that is, the title of the subject, is taken from the book of Micah, the 6th chapter, the 8th verse. In this verse, he asks a very simple question. First, he makes the statement, "He has shown you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to be just and kind, and live in quiet fellowship with your God." Nothing else is required of man after man has been told what is good, these three fundamentals. Outside of these, the outer ceremonial is an affront to God. It's an attempt to bargain him into accepting from man less than he wants of man. So, all the rituals, all the ceremonials, everything on the outside is really an affront to God. All he asks of us is to be just, to be kind, and to live in quiet fellowship with our God. Well, how would we go about living in quiet fellowship with our God? I think tonight you are going to find this a very, very practical approach to living in this quiet fellowship with your God. To understand it, let me go back now into the book of Psalms, the 4th chapter, the 4th verse. Be angry, but do not sin. Commune with your own hearts upon your own beds, and be silent. How would I do it? Would that really be living in quiet fellowship with God? Yes. Well, how do I know? I'll tell you this night how I do know. There are supposed to be 1 billion Christians in the world, and I wonder what percentage. It would be so small, it would be ridiculous. If I would ask a very simple question of the whole billion, do you not know that Jesus Christ is in you? I'm quoting from Paul's second letter to the Corinthians, the 13th chapter, the 5th verse. He's asking the Corinthians, do you not know that Jesus Christ is in you? If we were honest, the billion of us who claim that we are Christians, our answer would be, no, we do not know that Jesus Christ is in us. All you have to do is go to any home, especially the homes of those who put up pictures and little icons, and look and see what they have on the wall to represent Jesus Christ. It doesn't faintly resemble any member of the family, far less the one who occupies the home as owner. It doesn't resemble in the most remote manner any member of the family, and most of them are painted or done by very poor artists. They're monstrosities. But there they are, all over the walls, all over the places, in all these homes that call themselves Christians. They do not know that Jesus Christ is in them. Tonight, you do this in a simple way, for I'm speaking from experience. You are told to be angry, and the word translated angry is perturbed, enraged. So something disturbs you, burns you up, but do it in the seclusion of your bed. Do it in the silence of the night, the darkness of the night. Let it off your chest. You're required to help someone, and that someone has been helped. Then they go back and go back 100 times, and you are made aware of their falling back. How often, Lord? 70 times 7. Matt 18:22. But get it off your chest. Tell them exactly what you think, and then do not sin. These are the words, be angry, but sin not. Effie 4:26. Sin is missing the mark. Sin is having a target and failing to hit it. You have a goal in life, either for yourself or for another. And if that goal isn't reached, well, then you've sinned. So be angry, but sin not. Then comes the technique. Commune with your own hearts upon your own beds, and be silent. So after you've gotten it off your chest, you bring them into your focus once more, and see him as he ought to be seen, hitting the mark. You bring about your inner conversations, either with this individual or with others, implying he, she, or they have realized the goal, regardless of what that goal is. If you now put into your picture that you are kind, Would you like it done to you? Yes. Well, then that's right. That's one of the fundamentals. Is this now just? That's just, you can forgive sin, and you must be kind, and now live in quiet fellowship with your God. Well, am I communicating with God? I am. Well, now, do I know that what I am doing now is really seen by God? How do I know that God is actually seeing this? Because with God, all things are possible. Well, I'll tell you exactly how you can know, if you'll trust me. I now turn to the 42nd Psalm, and in this psalm, you're all familiar with it. As the hart panteth after the water brooks, so panteth my soul after thee, O God. That's how this wonderful psalm begins. He wonders when he will come and behold the face of God. For all day long, men say to him, where is your God? As he pours out his soul, they are always asking, where is your God? Then he calls upon a memory, and he said, these things I remember as I pour out my soul. When I went with the throng and led them in procession to the house of God, in joyful songs of thanksgiving, a multitude keeping festival. Verses 1, 3, 4. He remembers that. Well, now let me share with you an experience that parallels this. How I know that Jesus Christ is in us. I'm not unique. Jesus Christ is in every child born of woman, but people do not know it. So when they ask, do you not know that Jesus Christ is in you? They can't honestly say, yes, I know. They might have heard of it through someone else. They might have read it, as you read it in the scripture, but they don't know it. They haven't experienced it, and they have not that inner conviction that it really is true. Now, what I'll tell you now, I did not hear from a man. I was not taught it. It came to me by revelation of Jesus Christ. Many years ago, I found myself in vision leading a throng in a gay procession towards some invisible house of God. The crowd was thick, and as far as vision could go, an enormous crowd, all in gay Near East costume. As we walked toward this invisible crowd, a voice rang out from out of space, and the voice said, and God walks with them. To my right, this woman, she appeared to be Arab, and she asked the voice, if God walks with us, where is he? And the voice replied, at your side. She took it literally and turned to her side. I happened to be on her left side as we were leading this procession. Then she became hysterical. I mean, it struck her so funnily that she simply had hysterics. She said to the voice, you mean Neville is God? And the voice replied, yes, in the act of waking. The same voice, now heard only by me, not by the crowd, for everyone heard that voice, in her voice and the voice, the announcement that God walks with them. The question, where is he? At your side. You mean Neville is God? Yes, in the act of waking. All that was heard by the whole throng as we moved in procession to the house of God. But now the voice speaks in the depths of my being, heard only by me, and the voice said, and God laid himself down within you to sleep. And as he slept, he dreamed a dream. He dreamed, and I knew exactly the finish of the sentence. He is dreaming that he's me. I knew it. And at that moment, sheer ecstasy, for I was actually sucked into this body by whirling vortices. This hand is a vortex, this hand a vortex, my soles of both feet a vortex, and my head a vortex, and the right side of my body a vortex, far from pain. It was sheer ecstasy, as I was nailed upon this body. Well, who was nailed upon the body? For I was not the body. This thing took place in vision, and I, a living reality, a soul that animates bodies, actually was riveted on this body. And with a joy, an ecstasy that you can't describe in words, it's something entirely different. And I knew what it meant to be asked, Do you not know that Jesus Christ is in you? I knew then, at that very moment, from experience, that the dreamer in me is Jesus Christ, for he laid himself down within me to sleep. There was a purpose, and as he slept, he dreamed a dream. Well, who is dreaming a dream but the dreamer? And he's dreaming that he's me. Don't I feel I am the being that I am? Am I not the dreamer dreaming this that I am? So commune with your own power upon your bed and be silent. So tonight, when you are in your bed and you think of someone and you set up a pattern that you want to hear for them, whether it be health, wealth, good fortune, success, I don't care what it is, and just simply bring it into your mind's eye, believing that the being who has done that is Jesus Christ. If he annoys you prior to that, or something disturbs you, you are told in the 4th Psalm, be angry, be perturbed, be enraged, but do not sin. In other words, get it off your chest, but sin not. The next stage is now to set up the pattern once more. You took a picture and you either overexposed it or maybe destroyed it after it was realized. Can't find it now. You brought success into his world, or you brought him into some other state of joy, a state where he's gainfully employed. Then he's fired at the end of a day, week, month, or maybe some time later, and you hear of his distress again. You hear that, well, he got into the people's hair, as it were, and they simply couldn't keep him any longer. And he's lost job after job after job, and he turns to you once more, 70 times 7. And being very human, you are invited in the 4th Psalm to be angry, to be enraged, to be perturbed, but now do not sin. Right after it gets off your chest, then go, who is doing it? Jesus Christ is doing it. Christ actually laid himself down with man, humanity, for a purpose, to sleep. What is the call in Scripture? Wake, sleeper, arise from the dead, as you're told in the book of Ephesians 5:14. As we're told in the 44th Psalm, rouse thyself. Why sleepest thou, O Lord? Verse 23. Well, who is the sleeper? He is calling upon God to awaken. Well, where will he awaken if he entered me to sleep? This seems to be his sleeping place. He sleeps in man, and the sleep is so profound, it is to the world death. So he's called upon to awaken from this state called death. While he's in it, he's dreaming, and he's dreaming the dream of life. Now you can modify the dream by communing with your heart on your bed at night, just as simple as that. You read it when you go home, the 4th chapter, the 4th verse of the book of Psalms. After you get it right off, and you explode and just tell them off, as it were. But do it at night in your bedroom, in the seclusion of your bed, in the stillness of the night, when you are quiet. That's when you're told to do it. All you need do is to see, does it fit now, these 3 fundamentals? Does it fit justice? Am I asked now to do to someone else what I wouldn't want someone else doing to me? If someone came here this night and said, you know, so-and-so is in my way, and I want him fired. Well, is that justice? No. It doesn't fit my code. It isn't my code. So I couldn't accept that request from anyone. Someone said to me, you know, he's in my way. I want him to die. Get him out of my hair altogether. I want him to actually die. Would I want someone to ask that for me? No, I wouldn't. So do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. It isn't just, that's not one of the fundamentals. Now the next one is kind. Be kind. All right. Would it be kind if I saw the man promoted? Oh, yes, that would be kind. Would I want to be promoted? Yes. Well, now that's all right. It comes within. It fits the frame. And the last one, There are only three he gave us. What does the Lord require of you? The third one is so very simple: to live in quiet fellowship with your God. Well, I found who he is. He is the dreamer in me. I must be in quiet fellowship with that dreamer. I don't want any bad dreams. That's not being in quiet fellowship with the dreamer. I have found Jesus Christ to be the dreamer in man, in every man in this world. And by man, I mean generic man, male, female. Every child born of woman, the dreamer in that child is Jesus Christ. So when you go to bed tonight, do not let the sun go down upon the anger. Be angry if you want to clear the whole atmosphere, like lightning clears the atmosphere. And after the whole thing is cleared, then come and set it up again, and set up that scene that you really want to take. For the being that is setting it up is Jesus Christ. He actually became man. That man may become Christ. So I am not quoting only Mr. Blake. I know this from experience. Long before I read Blake, I had this experience. I was not the poet to put it into words like Blake. So when Blake said that God became man, that man may become God, I read the words of Blake long after I had the experience. But I was not given to writing. I do not consider myself, at this very moment, though I have brought out 12 books, I am not in my own mind's eye a writer. Blake was a writer. He was the grand poet. He was a painter, the artist in every sense of the word. So he could take an experience like mine and put it into such beautiful, beautiful English. And he said, all that you behold, though it appears without, it is within, in your imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow. How beautifully he stated it. Well, if Jesus Christ is the core of my being, the dreamer, and he fills all, he's all in all, what could I encounter that is really in a true sense without? He is dreaming it into being. Well, I can modify the dream, for it isn't going to alter the pattern that I gave him. I give him a pattern, and he'll perpetuate that pattern indefinitely, unless I modify the pattern. So how often must I do it? Until it's done. If it comes within the code of these three fundamentals, that's all he asks of me. What does the Lord require of you? And then he answers it, but to be just, and to be kind, and to live in quiet fellowship with your God. Well, having found God as my own wonderful imagination, for my imagination is the dreamer in me. I can't think of anything without imagination. I couldn't dream anything, whether it be a daydream or a night dream, without the use of imagination. So isn't my imagination Jesus Christ? When Blake said that the eternal body of man is the imagination, and that is God himself, he had the experience. Berk, Gombais, 75. He must, to have remembered, walking with the throng and leading them in procession to the house of God. I know I did. And I heard the voice at my right. I heard the voice in space. And I heard the voice in the depths of my soul, when it said to me, God laid himself down within you for a purpose, to sleep. And as he slept, he dreamed a dream. He dreamed. And I knew exactly what he was dreaming. He laid himself down within you to dream. And he's dreaming that he's you. And that dreamer can take any dream and externalize it. Because with God, all things are possible. So you start with the dream, and no power in this world can stop it from externalizing itself and becoming objective in your world. They can't stop it. You don't need them. As you are told, go within, shut the door, and your Father who sees in secret, he'll reward you openly. Matthew 6:6. In the psalm, you're told, commune with your own heart upon your own bed, and then be silent. That's all you do. Commune with your own heart, and then be silent. You don't raise one finger to make it so. You simply believe in the reality of this imaginal act. That's all that you do. You must give reality to what you've done. So I know from experience that revelation is the principal source of religious insight. Revelation has made me, the speaker, feel so secure in what I tell you. Before it, I might have speculated. I might have trusted wise men. And because they could speak in so many ways, and they were so brilliant in the eyes of men, I might have repeated what they said. I don't anymore. It doesn't matter what they said. My only source now outside of vision is the Bible. So I go back and I read the Bible after the vision, and I search it thoroughly for confirmation of the vision. Because if it's not recorded in Scripture, it's non-existent. This is an eternal word, and everything else comes and goes and vanishes. But the word remains forever. And so, I went back, and here came the 42nd Psalm. I do remember this. I remember when it happened to me, exactly the night it happened, and how this crowd appeared, and suddenly I am leading them in this gay procession. Where? To the house of God. I had no doubts in my mind where we were going. I knew we were on our way to this invisible Mecca, the house of God, and all these lovely gay clothes around me, a festive crowd. I knew the search that was mine prior to this, for the psalm begins, "As the hart panteth after the water brooks, so panteth my soul after thee. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God." Well, that was my search from the time I was a child, that constant search. It was a thirst that not a thing in this world could satisfy, but an experience of God. Then comes this fabulous night of the crowd, and the voice telling me exactly who I am. A sleeping garment, as it were, of God. That when he entered this death's door with me, he did it for one purpose: to share with me my visions of eternity and dream with me, until together we awake. And we aren't two then, we are only one. Ephanderos 2:14-15. So he came into this garment, and it's dead. He emptied himself of his primal form, took upon himself the limitations of this form, to dream with me my dreams of the world of death, really. Phil 2:7. For things come, they wax, they wane, they vanish. And all things come and vanish in this world. All things begin and end. The world of death. He took upon himself the world of death as he entered this garment, which I now call myself. But I know it isn't my being, because I was actually nailed upon it. No, I know what I am. So I can say to the world that that act of the crucifixion, where 6 points were pierced, not 5. My 2 hands, my 2 feet, my head, and my side. There were 6, like the Mogan David, the 6-pointed star. And they were whirling vortices, and they produced in me a joy that you can't describe. So this was the remembrance of the initial crucifixion. For we are told, if we have been united with him in a death like his, we shall certainly be united with him in a resurrection like his. Romans 6:5. So everyone is united in this death, just like that. And it's God in you, or you couldn't even breathe. You couldn't move. You couldn't be here this night. You couldn't in any way be a conscious entity were it not that God is in you as the dreamer. Now tonight, when you go to bed, don't think of some little being that must rise before morning and rush off to the job. It is God sleeping that night, and all things are possible to God. Regardless of what happened to you today on the job, you might have been threatened with being discharged. Maybe your creditors are pressing you. All right, everything is possible to God. So when you put your heed on the pillow communion with self, and that communion is actually in this quiet fellowship with your God. This is the God of whom The Bible speaks when you say I am. That's He. Now what are you doing? You say, well, I'm thinking of John. And John needs, well, he needs a good job. He has a wife, he has children, he has to support them, and it's not enough. Raise him up in your mind's eye. Well, how would you raise him up? Well, now, do you know a friend, a third party, who would tell you of John's good fortune after the event? All right. Bring that third party into the picture and just hear the conversation between you and the third party discussing John's good fortune. That's all that you do. Now believe in the reality of that imaginal act. That's all that you do. Just trust it. And know, really know, that the being that is doing it is Jesus Christ. So that's why I said earlier, go into the homes and say, where is a picture of your Lord? And they point to the wall. And then you say, bring your children, your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents, bring me all the pictures.